Hello and welcome to another video, and this one is about MLA in-text citations, which are the ones you use within the paper, and works cited formats, which is the full list of information on your sources that you put at the end of a paper. It's the last page of the paper. So I'm on Purdue OWL again, which is my favorite place to look at for pretty much anything related to writing or research and all of that business. Just under MLA style, here's a long list of all the things you might want to know about. I don't want to go through every single kind of source or scenario because it takes a long time and it's kind of tedious. But I want you to at least see the basics or the basic format for all of this. Because we could do everything from books to periodicals to electronic sources to other kinds of sources. And there's a sample works cited page, and you could do tables, figures, and others. And there's a very cool classroom poster I want to also send you along with this whole link. All right, so this first gives format for what the paper should be like, with the double spacing and the right font size and the margins. Okay. And there is that first page of a paper in MLA style. Can I make it bigger? Oh, up here. Okay, like that. That's not really helping. Okay. This is just what I've said before. You'd have your name, my name, the class name, and the date it's being turned in, and then your last name and the page number in the upper right, and that part would go on every page. This part on the left only goes on the first page, and the title is centered, and then you have the rest of the paper. I'm going to go down to, we're going to, that's not going to be the right one. Okay. Okay, let's go right to in-text citations. This is for what you use within the paper, sometimes called parenthetical documentation. There it is. We ought to have it on the big setting there. Okay. Okay, so this method involves providing relevant source information in parentheses whenever a sentence uses a quotation or paraphrase. Remember, even if it's paraphrased and you put it in your own words, you still have to acknowledge it because it's coming from someone else or some other source. Now, what you put in the parentheses depends on what kind of source it is. And any source information that you provide in text must correspond to the source information on the works cited page. Okay. So here's a few different ways that you could do it. It's called the author page method. You could mention the author in the beginning and then the page number at the end, or you could just have both at the end. Also, notice here that this direct quote is not a complete sentence. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. In fact, it's better if you don't have a complete quote all the time because it takes up a lot of space with someone else's words. You have to make it work with your sentence, though. It has to flow into it grammatically and smoothly. In this case, it's a paraphrase. See, they've changed the wording, but you still have the author and the page number. And so if I wanted to see that in the works cited, this is what it came from. And it's always last name first if there's a name available. So that quote came from this book, Oxford University Press, 1967. Okay, so sometimes we know the author, and sometimes there's a corporate author. And that means it's a company, a school, or a government document. There are also print sources with no known author. In that case, you have to use the title in quotation marks if it's a short work, or italicize it if it's a longer one. And give a page number if there is one. All right, so this one doesn't have an author, but this quote came from something called Impact of Global Warming. And to see what that is, we're going to look at the work cited for that. All right, so the full title is The Impact of Global Warming in North America. Now, they shortened it here in the parentheses to make it look better, because it doesn't look good if you have a long string of words in the parentheses. So it's an abbreviated title. And this was published online in 1999, but the student accessed it in 2009. So they put that access date at the end. All right. Okay. If you have authors with the same last names, then you would have to provide the first initial to differentiate them. Or maybe even the full name if they have the same initials. So here is R. Miller, and that's one author. And then there's A. Miller, and that's a different author. If you have multiple authors, you can put their last names in, both of them, like this, or at the end. But here's what you do in the works cited. The first author's last name goes first. So David Best becomes Best, David, and then you leave Sharon Marcus's name the way it would normally be written. We only put the last name first for the first author. And this one came from JSTOR, which is a database, I believe, and DOI is a digital object identifier. That's just how they do it. This is a journal. It says volume 108, number 1. That's definitely a journal.